academic language in the history and social sciences. One of the main goals of academic language is to move students from casual conversational English to more formal spoken and written English. For example, acknowledging someone else's idea, students might say something like, "Oh yeah, right," or "My idea is like Billy's," or "My idea is the same as Jane's." But instead we want to move students over to more professional, formal English. And when agreeing or acknowledging someone else's idea, you could say something like, "I agree with Jane's perspective," or "My idea is similar to Billy's," or "My idea builds upon Jim's idea." And these are all examples of more formal English. When clarifying by paraphrasing someone else's words, sometimes students say things like, "Huh? I don't get it," or "What did you say?" And instead we want to move students to this type of vocabulary where they are saying things like, "So what you are saying is," or "So what you mean is," or "If I understand you correctly, you are suggesting." And the stuff on this side of the page here is just more formal, more professional, and this is our goal for our students. For language functions, in academic language uses in regard to history and social sciences, the language functions are how and why language is used. So for example, the words in bold, compare, describe, and explain, are functions, and this is how students analyze and understand the sources by comparing, describing, explaining, etc. Vocabulary includes words, phrases, and symbols, and vocabulary is broken into 3 different areas. The first is subject-specific meanings that are different from everyday life. So for example, a ruler in history or social sciences would be maybe a king or a president or a leader of some sort, whereas a ruler in math is a way to measure, and it's especially important for our English learners to be able to differentiate between these meanings. And it's important for us to know that they might not even know that there are 2 meanings, and to help them learn. There's also general academic vocabulary, such as evaluate or describe. Many subjects use these types of words, but they are more academic. And then subject-specific words or symbols, such as imperialism, democracy, and fascism. These are very important words that are needed to understand history and social sciences. They can also be used in math, for example, in a word problem, but they're not as necessary in math as they are in history and social sciences. Academic language uses also include discourse, which is discipline-specific ways people talk and write about history. So, for example, arguments or political cartoons, primary and secondary sources, speeches or essays, newspaper editorials, and graphic representations like maps or graphs or charts. And this is what discourse is. And when students assess these examples, these types of discourse, they use these words: compare, describe, and explain. And then lastly, we have syntax, which are rules for organizing words or symbols to convey meaning. How words or symbols are organized can make a difference. So for example, in a sentence that displays cause and effect, that's really important for history social sciences. Using past tense when writing about history. English people might disagree about this, but when writing about history, it is important for students to learn how to use past tense because it is very challenging to switch between the tenses for young learners and even for early college students. And so it is important for students for grammatical purposes and also just in order for it to make sense for students to write about the past. For example, Cortez is not conquering the Aztecs right now. He conquered them a few hundred years ago. For geography, using longitude and latitude for a location is necessary. Students need to understand these terms and how to organize them in an important way that conveys meaning. And then making claims, which I would call making an argument or writing a thesis statement. This is an important way to organize ideas. And citations. Historians use Chicago-style citations. And though it is more complex and difficult and detail-oriented, I think it is also wonderful because it allows students to share where they got their ideas from. So if someone wants to read more on a topic, they know exactly where to look, which is wonderful. And that is all. Thank you.